If you look at what is produced between first world countries, developing countries, and third world countries, if you see what is produced and you see the talent, the material, discoveries, medicine, science, automobiles, outer space, travel, underwater, undersea, or ocean, investigation or exploration. When we talk about extrasensory phenomena such as ghosts, such as UFOs, such as Bigfoot, if you notice what countries actually are interested or produce or make or have a rich resource of people doing that and which countries don't, there's a stark difference between countries that are first world and there are countries that are third world and that are developing. Now, first world countries that are not developing externally, materialistically, first world countries such as Japan, such as Taiwan, USA, Hong Kong, England, all these kind of countries, all right, that are labeled first world, where they don't have to externally develop, but it's more of an internal development. Whereas in third world or developing countries, it's more focused on external development, and internal is put on the backwater, or put on the backwash, or laid to rest till later, KIV. Why? In first world countries, where food, subsidies, money, material resources, living, health, all that, the standard is very high, people's minds don't dwell or go or focus or lay rest on those type of daily essential needs. Why? It's already been developed. Whereas in third world countries and developing countries, all right, third world developing countries, people tend to focus more on making money. They focus on when they get the money to pay off specific commitments, and they focus more on medicine, on education, development of land. They don't so much think about saving the world, a green planet, global warming. They don't think about endangered species. They don't think about that because they're too worried about getting food for themselves. So therefore, in first world countries such as Japan, I've traveled there, Taiwan, Hong Kong, USA, I've been there, all of it. So I'm not just talking to you from a textbook. I've studied it and I've been there. Everything there, everything Japan produces is number one. Everything that America produces goes global. Why? They have the people and they have the luxury to go into these alternative arts that are besides survival. So hence countries like them move forward faster. They go global. They become more famous. Why? They're not trying to survive. They're trying to find something else to do because they have already survived. So therefore, in those countries, music is top. If you guys have, I'm sure you guys have heard Japanese pop rock. I've heard it. It's really good. I wouldn't listen to it, but it's good. And the stars are incredible. You know, the way they look, their makeup, their hair, their actions, the way they do things. They have style. They have pizzazz. They're globally competitive. I don't know what they're singing about, but visual, color, sound, I can grasp it. And and when you go to places like Taiwan, when you go to places like Japan, if you walk down Tokyo, it's as if you're in New York or it's as if you are in LA. Why? Because the code of dressing that you see there is so different than our country of Malaysia. Over there, you have people who are dressed up executive, power people. You have the salary men. Then you have women who are dressed up to the hilt. You see women in gowns going in and out of limousines all the time. You see goth. You see, groups of kids running around in total black and white goth. Then you see people in, they're in all types of styles. Some of them are punk. You see punks. You see mohawks all over the place. You see people who are alternative dressing. You see people who are minimalists. You see all types because in those countries, they explore fashion. They explore trends. They are trendsetters. They are fashion makers. They also increase fashion. So whatever they do, the whole world watches them and follows them. How many of our Malaysian boys here watch Japanese pop rock, jab rock, and they dress and act like them? Now, I saw one goth shop in all of Malaysia, and that is in Times Square. There's one goth shop, and the girl in there, she was all in black. She had, she had what's that called?
Choker?
She had a leather choker with spikes, and she had, she put on some kind of contacts that made her eyes look like white. She was in total goth, and all these tourists are standing next to her taking pictures. But you see, around here, if she walked around KL, everybody would stare at her, kids would run, animals would run. But in Japan, they wouldn't do that. In America, they wouldn't do that. They would just say, oh, that's goth, whatever. So in Malaysia, when you just look at the fashion, when you just look at the way people dress, you see the way people do things, it is so different in Japan, it is so different in US, it is so different in Taiwan, so different in Hong Kong. Why is that? Because in Malaysia, where we are not a third world country. We are not a developing country. We are a first world country with a label of developing. But the mentality here is still developing country. The mentality here among our older generation, our parents, are still developing. They're still developing and they're still third world. They're thinking, why? Because your forefathers came to this beautiful country and met the beautiful Malay people and they just embraced you. And when your forefathers came here, you guys didn't come here because you were doing so well and you're expanding your business or your merchants or your rich clothiers or your people who have incredible gold mines. You're not people who are looking for lands to conquer for the king. You guys came here because your forefathers were a bunch of farmers who were starving to death, who didn't get enough food, and who got on a junk, on a boat, and just swam here. So when your forefathers, which is 2 or 3 generations ago, swam here, got off the boat, they came here with nothing. They came here as coolies. They came here with absolutely nothing, and they were just farmers. So therefore, this survival instinct, this survival thinking, this survivalist type of mentality is still with our father and mother's generation. Even with my generation, it's starting to see a trend, a difference. I'll get to my point. Now, when I say they come here on a survivalist type of instinct, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying they're good. It's just a sociological fact. So what happens is that our great-grandfathers, some of us, our great-grandfathers, got off the boat and came to Malaysia. When they got here, their thinking was, you know what? Forget it if you're artistic. Forget it if you write poems. Forget it if you want to make, images. Forget it if you want to start an alternative rock cafe. Forget it if you want to have, hair, or you want to travel, or you want to explore yourself or find yourself. They say, you know what? Get an education, make money, and survive and save for your old age. And that's the mentality that's been passed down here. And then if you're a girl, you don't need school. Your job is to have babies and produce boys. Well, if your great-grandfather saw this crowd, they would turn in their grave. So girls' jobs was just to have babies, just to be a good housewife, and prepare you for your nasty, scary mother-in-law. Because when you get taken away to your husband's house, your job is to make your mother-in-law happy. Why? So you don't make your family lose face, that they were bad parents. And that's what's been drummed into girls, that you're supposed to be stupid, you're supposed to be docile, you're supposed to serve men, you're supposed to produce boys, and you're supposed to be good to your in-laws, you're supposed to completely forget your past and just be a good wife, daughter-in-law. And that's what's been drummed in. And that's how it's been. And Malaysian people who were one-time immigrants, because you're not immigrants now, you are real Malaysians. When you were one-time immigrants, your forefathers, they had a different thinking than you now. If they saw you do what you do now, they saw how you wear, what you do, your lifestyle, your interests, they would totally freak. They would not accept any of you because their mentality was, we suffer so much hardship to come, to leave our country, leave our people, leave our heritage behind, to survive. And what are you guys doing? You should spend extra money. You should spend, $100 a month, and the rest you should put it away for a rainy day. Don't you have fathers and mothers who stash money away for years? And they'll drive an old car, and they will never switch it, although they can afford 10 new cars? Don't you have fathers and mothers who are hoarding items, food, plastics, utensils, boxes, foam, containers? They just hoard everything. Do you know why? They're not bad, but they come from a survivalist mentality. That's a refugee syndrome. And the refugee syndrome has been passed down to refugee children. So therefore, there's a part of us now that says, you know what? I would like to explore myself. And I would like to do work that makes me happy. And I would like to do something that contributes to the earth, to people, to society. And I would like to do something that I'm happy with. I don't want to just survive. I don't want to just work and fit the grind that, you reach 18, you're loyal, you're filial, you listen to your parents, and on top of that, you go to college, you graduate, girls get married by 20, you have a son by 21, and, that's their world. And if you do anything opposite of that, they will freak because that's their formula to happiness. That's their formula to success. That's why they immigrated to another country. And they were not wrong. They were not wrong. But it worked for their era because that's what they needed to do to survive. Family, unit. Son should follow the father. The mother should follow, the daughter should follow the mother. And you should continue this because this is what we did to keep the family unit together. This is what we did to survive. And that's why you have good clothes. That's why you have a car. That's why you have education. Because we scrounged, skimped, and saved. Now look at you. What are you saving? Look at you. Are you married? You put us to shame. You don't have any sons. You don't have any kids. When are you getting married? Well, why are you talking about art, religion? Why are you talking about poems, literature? Why are you talking about, style, global warming? Isn't it more important just to make a lot of money, save it, and pay your commitments? That's what's been brought down to us. That was brought down to me. That was told to me for over, my whole teenage years. And every day, I just said to myself, no, I'm not going to do that. Now, in KH, I cannot speak for everyone in Malaysia. I don't have the right to because I didn't investigate. But in KH, I see a trend. The trend is to respect our parents, respect our forefathers, and respect their difficulties, but at the same time, respect what we want to do. This generation now are starting to be individualistic, which is unheard of in ancient society or our forefather society. You're not allowed to be individualistic. If you're not married, you're a girl, you're being individual. If you say, hey, I don't want to have a baby, I don't want to have a husband, I don't want to clean the house, I want to live in the forest and just be myself and be with the earth and that's it. They'll say you're being individualistic. They're saying that you are not following what's correct. You're unfilial. You see, but they're not trying to hurt you. That's all they know. So what we need to do is shake off the immigrant syndrome. If we shake off the immigrant syndrome, our country of Malaysia has just as many talented people, creative, intelligent people as anywhere in the world. Anywhere. So therefore, what's holding us back? When you talk to everybody, I've talked to thousands of people in this country, thousands in this region. What holds people back? I've got to pay my bills. I've got kids. But my mother wouldn't like it. Oh, my father wouldn't like it. You see, these are not things you would hear in America. These are not things you hear in Japan. These are things you're starting not to hear in Taiwan and Hong Kong. These are not things you hear in England. Because in those countries that don't focus on food and survival and just the daily grind survival. Just let's have money, let's have a relationship, let's have a home, let's have a car, and we'll be happy. Well, no offense, if you look at your parents, are they happy? If you look at the elders, are they really happy? Or if they really had their wish, they wouldn't have gotten married or had kids or married somebody else or married much later. If you really look at them. So therefore, what am I saying? What I'm saying is in first world countries, the attitude is first world. They're not first world because they have better facilities than we do, because they don't. They're not first world just because they are global, and we are not yet. They are first world because their attitude is first world. Why? Their attitude says, you know what? I'm happy with what I have. I'm happy with who I am. And I'm satisfied with what I'm doing because I don't have to get married to be happy. I can get married to be happy. There's that choice now in first world countries, whether you get married or not. And you know what? I don't have to have a relationship to define who I am. Oh, I need a relationship because that's who I am at this point. You have that choice. Our forefathers did not. And then it's in first world countries, it's very rare they say, you know what? I'm doing this to pay the bills. I'm doing this to buy a house. I'm doing this to invest in my future. It's very rare you hear that. Of course you hear. What you hear is this, you know what? I'm going to work 6 months and go and explore the world for 6 months. You never hear a Malaysian say that. Never. Never, ever. I've been here 15 plus years. I've never heard one Malaysian telling me, I want to work 6 months and go and explore the world for 6 months. Why? Well, I want to see what's happening. I want to open my mind. I want to see what else. I love my country. I love the world. And I want to see what's going on. Never. But you hear that from Japanese all the time. I met so many Japanese in Thailand. And they just backpack to Thailand. They're gone from the country for 1 year. And I say, how? Well, they say, we're kind of running out of money, but we can survive if we're really frugal because we can go to Japan and work for another 6 months, make money and escape. I say, why? They say, because our parents' dreams are different than ours. I've talked to them. So, in first world countries, you have people that say, you know what? I will live a bohemian lifestyle in some French quarter of New York or some bohemian area where everybody just shares the rent. There's 50 of us in one small room because we want to be artists. And that's how these major global players in the world become global. Because they're willing to sacrifice themselves in the beginning. Look at Madonna. She ran away from her home. She ran away from education. She ran away from everything that her father says a young, nice Italian girl should do. Get married, bring home, get a good husband, produce kids. She said, no, I'm not going to do that. She said, I want to be a dancer. She ran away to New York. She slept in various houses. She slept in everywhere. She slept on the streets. She slept everywhere. And she said, you know what? I'm suffering, but it's less suffering because I'm trying to get somewhere. And they interviewed her. If you watch her interview on YouTube, what do you want to do? What do you want to do when you grow up? I mean, she's already grown up. What do you want to do with yourself? She says, I want to conquer the world. She said that in the 80s, before she had her first song, Borderline. My point is that type of attitude that says, I'm going to make it at the cost of my comfort, at the cost of relationship, at the cost of my, all these things that my forefathers struggled for, that I don't need to struggle anymore to make it. That's why countries like that have scientists that are global, doctors that are global, historians, archaeologists, actors, singers, shakers, and movers. Why? Because they said, I'm not going to be stuck with the refugee syndrome. In America, it's the same thing. America's only 200 plus years old. And many of the people there, including me, are refugee syndrome people. It's not just you. It's everywhere. I grew up with all refugees on our streets. Yugoslavians, Russians, Brazilians, Mongolians. All on our street. They were all my Germans. They're all my friends. All of them. And their parents are from other countries, as I've named. Yugoslavia. All of that. All of us are first generation Americans who grew up with the refugee syndrome because the Yugoslavians, the Germans, the Russians, the Italians, they all told their kids, you have to grow up, get married, you have to get a good education, you got to go to college. We're working very hard. We're saving a college fund for you so you can grow older and not suffer while we suffer. Well, I said to my parents, no thanks. I ran away to New York for protests. I used to run away at 14, 15, take a bus or hitchhike to New York City, 3-4 hours away and go to protests. And I just walk down the street on these huge march protests. I'd run away to Dharma centers. I'd be looking for communes. I'd be looking for places where there was alternative learning. I didn't want to go to school and be a lawyer and doctor because that's not what's going to make me happy. My father would say to me, you don't know what's going to make you happy. I know what's going to make you happy. So you got to do what I say to make you happy. And I'm like, I do? That's why I left at 16, because I know I didn't. I slept on benches. I hitchhiked all across America. I begged for food. I had no money for decades. But I pursued my art, the study of Buddhism. I pursued my passion, meditation. I pursued my interest, learning the ancient art of mind transformation. That's what I did. And what did I get out of it? You guys are all here. And I'm going to start a revolution. What kind of revolution? A revolution of thought, of inner change, of mind transformation. I'm going to start that revolution because I said that I can do something that my parents said I can't. They said you can't be a monk. It's wrong. You can't go because you're a fanatic. You're following a cult. They used to tell me that, back there in the 80s. I said, yeah, it's a cult, whatever. Because I don't have to listen to them because I know they're wrong, but I don't have to tell them they're wrong. So my point is, if you are in KH and you are working in KH and you are doing work in any of the 12 departments of our glorious sacred center, you are first world mentality. First world. Let me tell you why. You are first world is because the pay is small. There are very little perks. It's a struggle. And the whole materialistic world is pulling at you. Money, work, job, travel, relationships is pulling at you. And yet you decide to stay in this kind of environment and continue to work. So we are the first generations of Malaysians that will put Malaysia on the map globally. Let me tell you why. Because we are starting a different mindset. What's the mindset? The mindset is, Mommy, Daddy, I really appreciate everything you have done. And I really love you. And I really believe you are right. And I respect you. But you've made me into a wonderful, intelligent, thinking, exposed individual. And I'm going to go one step further. With no disrespect to you, Mommy and Daddy, and to my grandparents. I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to explore things that was not allowed to be explored during your generation and a generation before because it was just a matter of survival. So during your generation and a generation before and before that, they were living just to survive. It was just a survival refugee syndrome type of life. But because of my forefathers' kindness, because of my grandparents' kindness, and because of your great love and kindness, I'm able to shake off this syndrome and explore deeper, wider, and broader things than just survival and paying the bills. And that is a formula that's going to make Malaysia or any country become global. Why is that? It's the mindset. The mindset must not be, I go to work, I have kids, I pay the bills, I own a house, I have a husband, I have a wife. Oh, I'm happy. Are you happy? Yeah, I don't know what happy is, but yeah, because they tell me I'm happy. And if you look at people with kids and husbands and wives, they're trapped. They are trapped. That's their destiny. They've chosen it. And that's it for them. And if those kids grow up to be monsters, because you look at yourself and you say, do you like yourself? Do you see your faults? Do you see who you are? Do you see your incapabilities? Do you see your lack of whatever you can do and not do? About 80% of that will pass down to your kids. You will produce kids that are replicas of you. Why is that? Because kids are affected by environment. Environmental training, environmental habituations. There's always a debate in sociology, nature or nurture. I go for nurture. Why? Because a Chinese in Japan, a Chinese in America, a Chinese in England, and a Chinese in Malaysia, and a Chinese in China are very different people. But you're all Chinese. So it cannot be nature, it must be nurture. So hence, what's my point? My point is, even some of us who became trapped with kids in a relationship, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, husband, a wife, it's a trap. It's the truth. That's what Buddha said, is a trap. We have to deal with the trap and also expand our minds to do more. We have the kids, we have to expand our horizons even more. We cannot just summarize our whole life to pay bills, to take care of kids, to own a car and own a house, and that's it. For me, that would never be enough. I would never go down that road. Never. That's why I've been a rebel. I've been a nonconformist, and I've been a person who always thinks away from the box my whole life since I was a kid. Because I kind of saw all these things when I was a kid. I couldn't express it as I'm expressing now, but I saw it. And I expressed some of it to my parents, not as well though. Because I was quite young. But I knew that's not what I want. And I know there's a lot of people out there. Hence, my attitude is a first world attitude. I'm not better. It's because of my environment that nurtured me. Because in America, if you say, hey, you want a 9-to-5 job, in 10 years you can be, you can be CEO and you get this perks, you get that in a car, you get a Merc and you get this beautiful wife, or do you want to be who you are, an artist. And you gotta live real poor, and you gotta struggle. But you can be world famous doing what you like. And you get that choice. Many young people just say, okay, bye. They go do the artist thing. You see so many movies of American kids, just saying, I'm not gonna do what my previous generations have done to make it. I'm just gonna do what I want because I know what I want. And being in a first world country affords you the opportunity to do what you want. We can be number one in science. We can be number one in music. We can be number one in spiritual revolution. We can be number one in art. We can be number one in singing and medicine. Whatever it is, we can be number one if we shift our mindset. If we shift our mindset. If we live in a first world country like Malaysia, and we are existing with a third world country mentality, a refugee syndrome, we won't get anywhere. Do you know why? What's a refugee syndrome? Have enough to eat, save up for the next famine, and make sure your kids grow up and get married and give you honor. Because you struggle and people look down on you, people stepped on you, and people look bad upon you. But if your kids grow up to be something special, they give you face swap. That's refugee syndrome. Why? Because they didn't make it and they struggled, so they want to show that they had done something in their lives. That is a refugee syndrome. That is a survival syndrome. Why do parents make kids do that? There's multiple reasons. Nothing is so simple. One of the reasons is so that they know their whole struggle, their immigration to another country, to another culture, was not wasted. That's what it is. That their whole struggles in life was not wasted. Because your mothers and fathers want to be doctors, they want to be artists, they want to be ballerinas, they want to be dancers, they want to be singers, they want to be, explorers, they want to be astronomers, they wanted to do that. But somebody above them say, no, you can't, you have to survive. We don't have money for that. No, you can't. Imagine in your grandfather's era, the little granddaughter says to the grandfather, oh, guess what, I don't want to get married because I like girls. Do you think in your grandmother's era and your great-grandmother's era, they didn't have girls that like girls and boys that like boys and boys that want girls that want to be artists and girls that want boys that want to be astronomers? There were. But everybody was slapped down. Everybody was put down. Everybody was told no. Everybody said no. And the kids believed it. Do you know why? Because all around them, it was just survival. It was just paying bills. Because that's what they saw. Now, this generation in this current era of 2009, it's different. When we go on the YouTube, when we watch movies, when we watch television, and we have international exposure, we know there's more. That's why a lot of us are torn. Should I have a relationship and have a good job and have a car and have money and have respect? Oh no, but I don't really want to do that. But I'm told I'm supposed to. But everybody does that. Well, there are people who don't. But what happens if I do this and I don't make it? In the end, I have nothing. Oh, but what happens if I do this and I make it? In the end, mentally, I have nothing. And we're torn. We're torn. Do you know why we're torn? Because we're exposed to the whole planet of people who are individualists who says, you know what? The 9-to-5 job with a $150,000 a year salary, with a beautiful wife and a beautiful car that can fly a kite, I want to climb Mount Everest. That's what I want to do. And in first world thinking, people do that. People climb Everest. People are great astronomers. And people even engage in the arts without thinking about salary, without thinking about a lot of money. Do you know why? Because first world thinkers are more interested in emotional satisfaction. First world people are interested in emotional satisfaction. They listen to the voice inside and say, what do I want to do? Not what people tell me to do. That's why in America, in England, in Japan, all these countries, Australia, there are so many people who make it global because their parents told them everything. That they cannot. Society said cannot. They did it and they became global. They set a trend. And then other people say, well, they did it. I'm going to do it. Another person comes, they did it. And pretty much it becomes like that. That's how America became number one in the whole world. Just within 100-year time span. That's why Malaysia hasn't made it yet. Although the infrastructure is in. Therefore, when we work in Dharma, it is the same as if we want to be an artist or a poet or a musician or a singer. It's the same. Because all those people got a backpack, all those people got to live in dingy little rooms and survive till they make it. All these stars, 90% of them came from nothing backgrounds and made it huge because they decided to pursue a dream. Some of them had support, most of them did not. That's why I read a lot of biographies around the world. A lot. I always read biographies because I try to understand people. Now, if we're in KMP, if we are working in any of the 12 departments, and we are here, you are the first generation of first world thinkers who says, you know what? I don't need to have a big car to define myself. And if I choose to have a big car, I'm going to have a big car because that's what I wanted, not what you told me or not what you're supposed to do. Because it's what I wanted. And it doesn't hurt anybody, so it's all right. You know what? I want to be an artist, and I don't mind making 1,500 ringgit a month. You know I can work in a design company, and I can make 15,000 a month. But you know what? I'm happy with 1,500 a month because I'm happy with what I'm doing. And the important thing about life is being happy because I don't live that long. And the quality of life is short, meaning, after 40, 50, it's about it for our health. It just goes down real fast. So my point is look, you don't want to wait till you're 50 to explore yourself in the world. Health problems, restrictions, commitments, all these things just play. You don't want to do that. So if people in our beautiful country say, you know what, I respect my parents, and I respect their struggles, and I really like their struggles, but I'm going to do what I want, not because I'm disrespecting you, because you gave me this opportunity. You fed me well, you educated me well, you gave me everything. Because mom and dad, you gave me this opportunity to do more with my short life. So I'm not going to do something different to oppose you or to hurt you. I'm going to do something different is because you gave me this wonderful opportunity to do something different. So you know what? I'm not going to do exactly what you did. I might do it my way, but it's not to disrespect you. It is because I want to do something with my life that's more than just being a baby machine, a money machine, a food machine, and basically a huge, food incinerary. I want to be more than that with my life. So people who work in alternative things like this, in our country here in Malaysia, we are pioneers. We are pioneers. We are pioneers. And a lot of the success that I have in this country, now, a lot of the success came from the exact attitude that I just explained to all of you. That I'm going to do it because it feels good. And I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to do what people tell me that I have to do to be happy. I'm not going to do that because I can't tell other people what they do to be happy, so they can't tell me. But I'm not going to be bitchy about that or difficult or arrogant. I'm just expressing my views. So I have the 12 departments today, and I will get TKO up because of this attitude in me that says, you know what? I don't want to conform to the refugee syndrome. I don't have to hoard. I don't think there's going to be a famine in Malaysia in the next few years. I don't think, because in China, your forefathers loved festivals. Why? It was the only time you guys can eat. Why does Chinese eat everything? Dogs, cats, roots, barks, trees, people. Why do Chinese eat everything? It's true. I've read so many Chinese works. Why do the Chinese have such a varied amount of banquets and food, and their cuisine is one of the top ranking in the world for variety and taste? Why? You think because some Chinaman got inside a kitchen and said, I'm going to be creative and go global? Because they were starving to death and they had to be creative what little they had to produce something that was nutritious and delicious. So over a 5,000 year period from starvation, they created their cuisine. And that's how it is. So therefore, countries who don't have a great cuisine, nobody starved. Tibet doesn't have a great cuisine like China. It has a nice cuisine, I like it, but it's not as vast and ornate and fabulous like China. Definitely not. Why? Because in Tibet, people didn't starve. That is a fact. They were poor, they were backwards, but they did not starve. Everybody had food. So there was no need to be creative. You see, if you get your normal amount of food, you don't have to go to the forest to look for roots and dead people and dogs and cats. You don't look at your neighbors and say, how would I tenderize for meat? You don't do that. You don't look at your grandma and say, I'm going to miss you, but I'm hungry. You don't do that. Because why? You don't have to be creative in creating food because there is no need to. Every country that has been creative came from a need. Every country that it came from a need. You see, so in Malaysia, we don't have to worry about electricity. We don't have to worry about water. We really don't have to worry about money unless we create the problems ourselves. Look, if you want to have 20 kids and then you want to tell the world, I can't do this because I got to pay my kids, I got to do this. That's your life. That's your choice. But I choose something else. I don't want to spend my life raising a farm. I'm not interested. And if we constantly have a first world attitude, that will be your key to success. That will be your key. What is your key? I don't have to get married to be happy. I can get married to be happy. You see, there's a choice. It's not either or, it's a choice. That's the secret. I don't have to make, $300,000 a year, $1 million a year. I don't have to have a name or a degree or a title. I don't have to. But if I want to, I can. You see, you don't do it because it will make you happy. You do it because it fits you. You don't do it because you want respect or you want people to look at you or you want people to say you've done something. You do it because you're happy. Because when you're 6 foot under the ground, it doesn't matter what anyone has said about your life. It is what you left behind. It is what you leave behind, your legacy. So therefore, our people that are working in KH, a lot of young people and almost young people and wannabe young peoples, a lot of them are people who think first world. Why? Look at yourselves. I'm sure you can make a lot of money somewhere else. I'm sure you can go and get another 50 degrees and look wonderful, so they can put your degrees and chisel it on your tombstone. I'm sure. Degrees. That's what my father said. I have to get a degree. He said, no one will respect you if you don't. And he says, we worked so hard. We came from, my stepmother came from Yugoslavia and my stepfather from Russia. He says, we came here and we starved to death. We worked hard so that you can have everything we didn't have. So if you don't get a degree, we lose face and you're going to have a horrible life like us. So I said to them, if I get a degree, I'll finish school around 28, 30. Then I have 20 years to play with that. After that, I'm already old. They said, why do you think like that? I said, that's the truth. I told them when I was 14, 13. I said, I'm not going to spend 8 years in school to get a degree because I can die before the degree comes. And I don't care because of the people who will respect me because of that degree. That's their level. That's their mind. And I'm not going to entertain that mind. I'm not going to entertain that thinking. And I'm not going to fall into that trap. Because when it comes to degrees, you can say, now that you got a degree, you're making money, you should have a family. It's always interlinked. And once you have a family, what about the kids? You guys have been married for so many years, why don't you have kids? You're not able to, you can't, it don't work. They all kinds of mind games. And these days, they don't ask you if it don't work, they say, maybe it's a closet. Maybe it's a closet case. And it's been so true in KH, so many closets. But anyways, they start questioning you. You know what? Somehow they'll blackmail you into the way they make you think like they do. Not because they're bad, because they're in this kind of syndrome that hasn't been shaken off. American refugee syndrome has been shaken off with the Americans who have been there for 3-4 generations. Not for the refugee Americans who have gone there. They're still under that syndrome. They're still, they're not interested in art. They're not interested in alternative healing or medicine. They're not interested in any of that. Why? Because they're just trying to pay their bills. Because they came from a country that had no food, that was war-torn, that had a bad government, or they were repressed, or they were, biased against, and they just didn't make it. So when they go to America, the only thing they want to do is they want to make money. How do I know that? I know hundreds of Tibetans who have immigrated to America. And you know what they're doing there? They're working in restaurants, washing dishes. Yeah. They're sweeping out garbage in New York. They're in a restaurant sweeping out the garbage. They're not even like a waiter or a dishwasher. They're actually the garbage man. And they're in their 30s and 40s. And I say, are you happy? They say, well, I hope I will be in the future. I wouldn't go to America to sweep someone's, restaurant. Most of the Tibetans who go there do that. Most. So my point is what? My point is, all of you, I'm not going to give you a big Dharma teaching today. And I'm not going to indoctrinate you with Dharma. But I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is, people who work in the Dharma are special. People who work, not be in the Dharma and not work. People who are in the Dharma and do the work are special. Because there are people in the Dharma who don't do work. They just tell people, I'm doing Dharma work. And you're like, what work are you doing? They have to check their notes. I'm talking about people who are in Dharma and do work and produce results. They're special. They're unique. Because they have been exposed. These people have been exposed. And they know there's more out there than just the normal 9-to-5 family, children, grind. I have prayed that every single life, I never have a relationship. I never have kids, and I never get stuck in that grind. Never. I have prayed for every single lifetime. I'm not kidding you. Because when I look at people who are stuck in that, I don't look down on them. I just see it as a trap. That's all I see it as, a trap. And I will never fall into that trap. Ever. And if you have a relationship, you split it up and go and say, you know what, I realize that I'm going to kick off this refugee syndrome and the kids and you go along with it. You don't go home and tell your husband and wife and your kids that either, but you don't use that as an excuse not to move further. You don't use that as a lame, tired excuse not to move further. And you know what, if you're in a relationship, because it enhances your life, that's wonderful. If you're in a relationship because you don't have a life, because you're afraid to get a life, then you're going to suffer. Because I know so many people that I counsel that come to me who are in a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship is not really the person. Because they are so insecure, they are so scared, and they have no life, and they have never ever made a decision and just said, I'm going to do it. You see, because when you make a decision to do something, to be the greatest poet in the world, to be the greatest Dharma teacher, the greatest writer, the greatest philosopher, the greatest doctor, the greatest actor, the greatest singer, there are sacrifices that come along. And the sacrifices that come along, we see it as progress. But in Dharma, when we have to sacrifice, we call it a sacrifice. I find that wrong. People who want to go to college, they have to work 2-3 jobs. I have friends in America who work 2-3 jobs a week to get through college. They're in their 50s now. They didn't make much. They just look back and say, I worked here, I did this, I got this degree, so what? That's right. There are some of them have to, bunk in with 3 other people that they hate. Some people have to eat, beans every single day. When I was in America, I ate canned beans every single day because that's all I can afford for years. But I said, I'm going to go to India and I'm going to study and I'm going to be a monk and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to do my practice. And I ate beans every single day because that's all I can afford. And I lived in shitty little crappy dangerous apartments where there are people breaking in all the time, people coming in and trying to hurt you, physically hurt you, or do things to you. I lived in those places and I had a lot of that. Why? Why did I have a lot of that? Why did I put up with it? Because all of that was difficult, but I didn't see it as an end in itself. I saw it as a progression to what I wanted to do. A progression. So therefore, whatever you are, inverted commas, suffering right now for the growth of what we want to do, you got to relabel it not as a sacrifice. You have to label it as progression. That's what you got to label it. Because labeling something, because we're so attached, we hold on to something so strongly, labeling makes a huge psychological impact in our mind. When we always think it's work, when we always think it's a sacrifice, our body language immediately shows it. We hunch. Immediately. But when you say, you know what, it's progress, it's part of the success, it's on the road to success, you see the body language go like that immediately with people. Immediately. So we have to get rid of words like sacrifice. We have to get rid of words like losing out or suffering, because it's not. You see, why do you not suffer or lose out? Let me tell you why. Because you make a choice of what you're going to be happy with. You make a choice of who you want to be and what you want to leave behind. That's why it's not a sacrifice. It is a choice. So therefore, some of us here, let me use a very potent example. Very potent. Some of us here are alternative people. And if you can't see their alternative, you must be 300 years old. You gotta be, you know, it's obvious. Being an alternative person, there in Buddhism, to me, and everybody has their views, there's nothing wrong. To me. And I have a lot of reasons for that. I'm not gonna get into it today, but I have a lot of reasons. And I will speak up about it in the future because I am very controversial. Why am I controversial? Because I don't follow the norm. I don't follow the norm to fight. I don't follow the norm because I see some faults in it. So my point is, if you choose to be alternative, why do you choose to be alternative? Because that's who you are. And that's who you have been. And that's how you're happy. And you being alternative doesn't hurt anyone. And in fact, if there was more alternative people, there would be a less population explosion. No, I'm not being bitchy. It's not a problem. And you say, well, what about where we're going to reincarnate? There's so many billions of universes we can reincarnate. This is not the only world or dimension. It's not the only world. So, when you're alternative, you make a choice because that's who you are. You're not trying to fight against your parents or society. And in this society, now it's getting better when you're alternative. People look at you. People whisper behind your back. People take a second look. People kind of, talk like, why? And even some people will be hostile to you. And some people outright reject you and put you down. But you know what? You're still doing what you're doing. You're still being who you are. And if you guys are pioneers in being alternative, in being who you are by respecting the law, following the government, and respecting your culture, you're the pioneers of people expressing to be who they are. I'm not promoting alternative lifestyle here. I'm talking about a point. So, when you are living an alternative lifestyle, you are segregated and cut out from a lot of things in society. And you are questioned almost every day when you're going to get married. Why are you not married? Why do you look like a boy? Why do you look like a girl? You're questioned. And in religion, a lot of religions bash you. You're going to go to hell. It's alright, because I'll see you there. You know those people running around telling you you're going to go to hell? They're going to go to hell. They have no right to say you're going to go to hell. Only Buddha or God can say that. They have no right to tell you you're going to go to hell because they made up the books, they made up the rules, they made up the stories, they made up all the scare tactics. And it ain't going to work. It's not going to work on me. So, religion says, oh, you're going to go to hell. Oh my God, you're 50 and why do you live with that girl out? They look at you. And that's their way of putting you down. But you see, you're not afraid of being different. You're not afraid. And some of us hide. We go back to our families and, we fem it up. Because usually we walk like, we're a biker. When we go home, we fem it up. We drag it up. We go, hi, Mommy, I'm your nice little girl. And we might even add a little lipstick on to, for the effect. Hi, Mommy, I'm a girl, see? I got lipstick. And then there's some really femboys who go home and they butch it up. And that's the lives that we choose. And that's what we have to put up with. So let me ask you something. How come you can put up with the scourge of society? How come you can put up with deceiving your families? How come you can risk going to hell for the rest of eternity, but you can't do Dharma work? I don't understand. That's what I just don't understand. Because you're doing this against everyone. You are like a salmon going upstream. You are a salmon going upstream. But why is it when it comes to Dharma work, you're a salmon who goes downstream and you never get to spawn? Oh, you're an alternative salmon. I mean, think about it. Why is it that society puts you down, people give you second looks, families criticize you, people ask you insinuative questions to, actually it's they know, but they're asking you that to get you, and then you have people stare at you, you look odd. Why is it you're willing to put up with that your whole life, but you can't do Dharma work? That's what I don't understand. Because Dharma work, being alternative, all that in this first world country is pioneering. People who want to be artists, and they say, you know what, Mom? I'm sorry, I really don't want to be a doctor. I really don't want to be a lawyer. I really am sorry. I want to be an artist. But You're not going to get a nice girl. No one's going to marry a poor artist. You're going to live in Charaz. Poor you. And if you really don't sell any paintings, you'll have to move to Pujung. How? And if you don't make it in Pujung, oh my God, you might have to move to Gombak. How? And what about Chinese New Year's? You're still taking a bus over to see us at home. Oh my God, you've got that 20-year beat-up waja. We lose face. And you're so skinny. You're yellow. You can't eat much. You don't have much food. And you want to be an artist and you're happy? I am. I am happy. I am happy being who I am. Because our first world country in Malaysia allowed us that. Do you know why our country has allowed us that? Because we have great electricity. You may think, what's the big deal? Go to Nepal. You may think it's a big deal. It's not. It is a very big deal. We have, great electricity. We have delicious food. And the food is plentiful. You go to Russia. You go to Bosnia. You go to Serbia. You go to these countries and you check out their bread lines. You have little old ladies who wait half a day to get one loaf of bread. Read the National Geographics. Get out of Playgirl and Playboy. Read the National Geographics. You have little old ladies online half a day to get a loaf of bread. And we're too damn lazy to walk over to 7-Eleven and shoplift one loaf. I mean, come on. And our government is fabulous. I don't care what people want to say about Malaysian government. It is fabulous. We have no wars. We have no riots. There's no coup d'etats every week like in Thailand. Sorry. Everything is fine. We have harmony, interracial harmony. Our government's a little slow. You go there, you want to get a visa, you want to get your passport, you want to do anything with the government, tomorrow, or they're sitting there having coffee. You just talk nice with them. Hey, you're beautiful, you're so slim, you're young looking. Then they give you your passport real quick. My point is they're a little laid back and slow. So, we have great roads. We have great buildings. We have infrastructure. We have broadband and it stays and it's stable. For years there was no broadband. And MMS works. They don't have that in Nepal. When David came back, he was so happy to have MMS, he told me. We have MMS. They don't even have MMS in England. Yes. Some service providers there don't have MMS. I'm like, what? I SMS'd my cousin in Russia, Delarumchi, and I said, you got MMS? He says, I'm not in Malaysia, I'm in Russia, I was like, oh, sorry. He actually said that in his little SMS. I said, but you know what? India, Mungod has MMS. I said, why don't you call up your service provider? He said, well, I'm not very good at technology. I said, maybe that's it. But he actually said, this is not Malaysia, this is Russia. We don't have MMS. He SMS'd me that. And so that was 2 days ago. So my point is what? We have a great government. We have great climate, except Penang, that doesn't count. We have great climate. There's no tsunamis. There's no earthquakes. There's nothing. Nothing. Look at China. Every time you turn on TV, 50 million people died. Earthquake. And what do? You just go, oh, mani pemeng, let's move on. What can we do? We have no earthquakes. Like I said, Penang don't count. We have no tsunamis. We have no pollution. Indonesia, that's their problem. When the wind blows, we get a little, but that's not us. It's stable. It's interracially, interreligiously harmonious. I think we have a great country. And that's what allows us to do something more with our lives. And when I speak here, I'm not speaking to just you. I'm speaking to everyone. Your parents has provided you with a great body, a great Medicare, great health and opportunities, and exposure. And you're just going to waste your life away with having a relationship, having a few kids, and having a good time, and that's it? No. Don't do that. Don't get, and am I saying that if you have kids, throw them down the reservoir and tell your husband what you really feel? You weren't that good, bye. You don't have to say that. You don't have to say any of that. You don't have to do any of that. You should have a great relationship with your spouse. You should have a great relationship with your kids. Because you did it, that's your responsibility, but don't be stuck there just a tired, salary earning housewife getting old and gray and pretending you're happy. You gotta stop that. You gotta do more with your life. You gotta do more things that other people dare not do within the law. When I say do more things, I didn't say break our law. We should never break our laws. But we should do more. Do Dharma. Do retreats. Sacrifice. Cut back on your salary if you want to do something that you're interested in. Get rid of the tired, lover that, is just dragging along and say, look, I'm stopping you from finding someone that you might like. I'm stopping you from finding someone that you might like. And I am holding you back. So you have to think like that. You have to concentrate like that. So, even if you're in a relationship, marriage or whatever, you shouldn't do it because you have to. You shouldn't do it because you're insecure and lonely. Do you know what? No one in this world can make you feel not lonely and not insecure. But doing something that is fulfilling will make you feel secure and not lonely. And doing things for the sake of getting rid of loneliness, it won't work either. Loneliness never goes away. Never. It never goes away. Do you know why? Drinking salt water never quenches the thirst. And you can drink the whole ocean up. It's water. It's liquid. It's not going to work. So, if you're with someone heavy, that's heavy baggage, you know what? Maybe you're heavy baggage for them too. But if you're married and with kids, let me stress again, you don't get rid of the baggage. You take care of the baggage and you do more. Because life is not just about that. First world country people, think how. I want to be the best scientist when I grow up. So many new sciences, so many new kinds of research, so many types of arts and creativity come out of America, Japan. You know why? Because people don't want to get stuck in the norm and they don't want to be stuck in the currents. They want to do something different. And they go and do it. And they're pioneers. And when they make it, they start a trend. Every single art that we have, every single type of music, art, medicine, were all created by people that were pioneers. When antibiotics was first created, it was pioneers. People didn't believe it. Do you know, I saw a program the other day that in the 1800s in England, there were people who actually stole corpses and bought corpses, and they experimented with corpses in order to find a method that surgery would not be painful. Why? Because they wanted to find something that anesthetized your body. And do you know what? The whole medical faculty, all the doctors and professors of the 1800s England, 1700s, 1800s, they laughed. They laughed at doctors and they scoffed at doctors who say that, we can operate in peace and quiet without pain. You know how they operated back then? They didn't have anesthesia. They didn't have sleeping gas. The doctors that are most highly prized were the ones who can operate very quick and come out of the operation quick and sew it up quickly. Do you know why? Because while they're doing it, they have a few tough bouncers hold the person down and they operate the person just like that. Think about it. Surgery's been around for 5,000 years. Anesthesia to maybe 150. Think about it. Maybe longer, maybe less. So how do you think people operated before that? You think they put them to sleep? How do they sleep? They wake up when there's pain. If you're sleeping, someone cuts your leg, wouldn't you wake up? If you're sleeping, someone cuts your chest, wouldn't you wake up? They're sawing through your ribs. And they made brain operations. I don't know about China because they had acupuncture that's supposed to go like that and you don't feel anything. I have no idea. But a lot of the world didn't have that. So the doctors that were very much in demand and were the top of the medical field and who were extremely sought after and made a lot of money and lectured at universities and were very, very much prized were the doctors who could do surgery fast. Do you know why? Because the screaming of the patient would be less. And when they operated on legs, when they amputated with you fully awake. And the patient screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed. That's how they operated in the past. So a few doctors came out and said, no, we've got to put the patients to sleep. We've got to anesthetize them. And all the doctors laughed and said, you know what? Get out of here. And they laughed at them. They scoffed at them. And they said, you know what? Just get faster with the operation so the patient doesn't suffer. There is no such thing as some type of medicine or chemicals that can put a person to sleep or put that area of the body. None. No such thing. And the doctors who actually investigated and experimented in anesthesia and putting people to sleep were laughed at and scoffed at, and they were the top of their fields. But someone did it. With the laughter, with losing business, with losing respect from their colleagues, they did it. and they found anesthesia, and they proved that people can be operated without causing so much pain. Because there was a few compassionate doctors that said, you know what? I don't like giving this much pain to these people. I've got to operate every day. And what killed them was operating on kids, little girls, little boys, who the parents are there soothing them, saying it's going to be all right, and they're amputating their leg, they're cutting, they're taking something out. And the kids are screaming. And the kids sometimes just collapse, they faint. And they're traumatized for life. Because imagine a little kid getting their legs cut off, amputated. You think about it. With no anesthesia. And that's how it was in medicine all over the world 150, 200 years ago. You guys take anesthesia for granted. What's my point? My point is somebody said no. I don't care if you lose respect for me. I don't care if I lose more lecture circuits. I don't care if I get less patients. I don't care if you call me Dr. Frankenstein, because that's what they call them, Dr. Frankenstein. I don't care if I'm ostracized, but I'm not going to let these people suffer. And I'm going to find anesthesia, or I'm going to find something near it, and I'm going to perfect it. And that's what they did. So over a 100, 200 year period, that's what doctors did, and they found it. Today, when we go for surgery, we wake up, we go home the same day. Because somebody said, no, I'm not going to do that. And it takes that type of compassion and that type of strength of mind to work in the Dharma. It takes that kind of attitude to work in the Dharma. To say, you know what? I don't disrespect you, but I know this can be better. And I'm not opposing you or your lifestyle or your thinking, but I know this could be another way. You know what? I don't mean to be different just for the sake of it because I'm bored, but I see something else. So therefore, all the fabulous things we have in the world today, whether it's electricity, look, telephone, look, flying. Do you know the Wright brothers have worked so hard with all types of weird flying machines for decades? It's on black and white film that you can see it. And that they were laughed at. People said if we were meant to fly, God would have given us wings. They would scoff at them and laugh. But when they flew up in the air for a few minutes, they proved the world wrong. So what are you guys afraid of? Some of you in here are alternative people. Some of you are alternative. As I said earlier, society at large scoffs at you, makes fun of you, puts you down, embarrasses you. Religion condemns you, except me. Religion condemns you. People look at you as something wrong. You know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you'd be sent for psychotherapy or medication or help. What's my point? But if you keep doing what you're doing and you don't hurt anybody, people are going to accept and say, you know what? There is nothing wrong. Man can fly. We can operate without anesthesia. You can be different and still be productive and a wonderful person. You can be alternative and not have kids and not have what everybody else has to be happy. You can. And if you're brave enough to do it, you will succeed. You will succeed. Today, to succeed in something alternative and different than the mainstream is easier than hundreds of years ago because we have so much support from the media, from movies, from society, exposure, education, and so much success in human development. So there are so many people that people said you can't make it. So many. And they made it, they proved it wrong. Each time someone makes it, someone else shuts up, someone else gains inspiration. So when you work in Dharma, you know what, let me tell you the truth. And I'm not going to say this as a psychological trick, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Because this is exactly what I did. If you're going to work in Dharma, it's like discovering new medicine. It's like being passionate about painting. It's like being committed 100% 24/7 to music or to being a rock star. If you're committed to Dharma, let me tell you why. Because you're going to have to forego big pay. You're going to have to forego relationships. You're going to have to forego, all types of other activities. You don't have to give up. You don't have to cut down to a nothing. You have to, you know why? When you went to college to study, did you give everything up just to study? When you got married, did you give up all your other 20 girlfriends and boyfriends to get married? It's the same. So why is it different for Dharma? Only because in our society, Dharma is labeled as a loser. Loser's recourse, meaning, oh, your business went down, that's why you're doing Dharma, I understand. Collect merit and come back to the real world. I've heard that hundreds of times. Not to me, they don't dare say it to me. When they come to me, they look at me, I look at them and say, oh, you poor thing, life has not been good, you're still late. Well, they gotta pay their bills. Now, first world country is Malaysia. I don't care what any other country labels us. I got my own definition of first world. Sanitation, medical. We don't have one doctor per 50,000 people. We don't have that problem here. Electricity, it's clean. Infrastructure, roads, communication. We got everything. We are first world. But our attitude is, some of us, not all, is still third world refugee syndrome. Because when your forefathers came from China, they came here to survive. The more sons they have, the more business, the more money. That's how they thought. And their kids should have more kids. Because when their kids grow up to be something big, then their struggles were not in vain. And that's why they want their kids to be more. So their struggles are not in vain. So they pass that down to you. So you, being the new generation, are torn between the old and the new. What's the old? Well, I've got to have a car, and I've got to work my butt off to pay for the car so I can go to work to get money to pay for the car, and I have the car to go to work to pay for the car. That's the way it should be. I've got to get a big house. I've got to have a house. I've got to own something. I've got to have a mate. When I go home, what is it all for if I don't have anybody and I'm lonely? There are a lot of people who are married and who are with lovers and they're lonely as hell. A lot. Lonely is a state of mind. It's not who or who you're not with or who you're with. And you're stuck on that, this kind of refugee thing. Because when your forefathers came from China, what did they think? They didn't come to Malaysia because they had sprawling gold mines and diamond mines and they want to expand their trade and open up, outlets all over the world. They came here on a boat starving to death and they swam to shore because the boat probably didn't make it to shore. And why did they come? They came to survive because in their country they were eating their mothers, they were eating their grandmothers, they were eating the dog, they ate the cat, the bird is gone. There was nobody left to eat except the emperor. Everybody was eating, there was nothing left. And they said, we got to get out of here because this famine is horrible. It's true. That's how Chinese cuisine came along. Desperation. And Chinese are known to survive. They're known to survive. So if there's nothing to eat, they'll probably boil the tanka and have some delicious 3-course meal from the tanka. They'll find a way to eat because they have to survive. So therefore, in first world countries, food is not a problem. Water is not a problem. Survival is not a problem. Education is not a problem. Looking good and going to college and graduating to be something is not a problem. In first world countries, arts, science, music, philosophy, poetry, writing, all these blossom. Why only in first world countries? Because first world countries have the attitude that my sustenance is okay, I want something more. In third world countries, they never think I want more because they just want to survive. They just want to be not hungry. They want to be not hungry, so that's what they focus. So you say, you want to be a great artist? They say, no, I just want to get a job so I can pay my bills, so I can eat. But in first world countries, you say, hey, are you hungry? I'm starving. I'm a starving artist, but I'm happy because they were brought up with the mentality to succeed. That's why we have this kind of mindset in Malaysia. We have so much talent. We have so much fabulous people. It's just the same as anywhere else in the world. It's the mindset. The mindset has to change, and I would like to help contribute to the change of the mindset. I'm not here to change Malaysian culture or Malaysian way of thinking or Malaysia's historical background. I'm here to say we can be just as good as anyone else if we change our mindset. So you guys got to stop thinking, hey, I got to get a relationship and I'll be happy. Hey, I got to be a lawyer and I'll be happy. Hey, but I'm only making $1,500 a month. I can make $30,000 a month and I'll be real happy. Go talk to rich people. Because I've been talking to rich people for 20 years, interviewed them. They are just as unhappy and they have just as much fears as you. They just have more money to cover it up. Most of them. Happiness is not defined by any of that. And therefore, if you're going to use your lives to get money and power and prestige and all that, you can. You can. But is that what you want? Is that what you're really looking for? So therefore, if you're doing Dharma work, you have to be a pioneer. That's what I've said from day one. You have to be a pioneer. You have to pioneer that goes completely against materialistic thinking. That if I have this, 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 then I'll be happy. No. Listen to the voice inside. Feel what you're doing and see the benefits it brings to people. See the smiles it brings on other people's faces. See the transformation in other people's minds. And then check how happy you are and what you're doing is good or not. Don't be in Dharma for name. Don't be in Dharma for money. Don't be in Dharma for reputation. Don't be in Dharma for material success. Be in Dharma because it's a wonderful vehicle to make yourself really happy and thousands and thousands and thousands of other people happy. And because I believe that, I have taken ordination 20 years now. And I am doing Dharma work. And people might say, oh, Rinpoche, but you have sponsors now and you have money now. Yes, I have it now. That's after 30 years of being in the Dharma. I was a starving Dharma Rinpoche. Starving. And you guys should see me. Look at the pictures of me when I came in 1992. The pictures of me are unrecognizable. I was really skinny and big. Really, really. You know why? Because I started that in India. I literally started that. There was very little food. Very little variety. I basically ate barley flour with some tea inside mix. That's what I had every day. I starved to death. But I was never sad or I never cried that I was starving. And I came from America because I was so happy to be in an environment that I wanted to be in. To absorb the knowledge so I can, in the monastery, so that I can go and do my meditations and practice. That's what I wanted to go. I didn't want to go and teach. To go and do my practice. And I was very skinny. And I starved. And I had no money. And I had no sponsors. And I had no family. Nobody. I didn't even speak the language over there. But I did it. You know why I did it? Because I know that would make me happy. And I know, you know why it would make me happy? Because I know that if I did that, I can make a lot of people happy. So, some people can give money. Some people can give food. Some people can give love. Some people can give, medicine. But I can give them a new way of looking at their situation. I can give them a new mindset. And if I give everyone that I meet a new mindset, their whole situation and their whole universe and all their sufferings can be turned around in one conversation. And all their thinking and all their fears and insecurities can start to see some light. Because all that comes from a different mindset. A mindset that's logical, a mindset that is profound, and a mindset that is well thought of and well thought out. And that is free from fear. A mindset that is indigenously free from fear. That's very important. Because I come from a society of fear religions. Fear. You don't do this, you get this. You do that, you get this. Fear. Reward. I'm not interested in that. Because I don't believe that. You know why I don't believe it? When I look at the 6.5 billion people in the world, and I see how people cheat their way through life and they get it, and people who are honest and they don't get it. I mean, there's so much disparity that it doesn't explain it. It didn't work for me. So, when you're in Dharma, you remember why you're here. So you leave all your baggage outside. You leave all your stupid insecurities that are baseless outside. And you leave all your greed and all your little mind games, and you leave behind all your little twisted ideas outside. You have to come in with a new mindset. What's the mindset? I'll make a difference in this world with my life. I'm going to make a difference. Because I'm not starving, and I'm not hungry, and I'm all right, and I have a choice. I'm going to make a difference in this world with my life. And no matter what I have to go through to attain that, I'm going to do it. Because you know what? I don't want to get old and look back and say, you know what? I just did what everybody else did because I was afraid to do something different. And then you kick yourself. I don't want to ever be an old person kicking myself and regretting. I don't want to. Do you know, when you climb up, when you look at the mountain from the base, it's really big. It's really, tough. But when you get halfway up the mountain and you look down, you say, that wasn't so tough. It wasn't that high. I can do the next half. Let's do it. That's how it always is. Look at all the things that you were afraid of in your life. Look at all the things that you had feared, that you didn't want to do, that you held yourself back. And now when you look back at some of those things, you don't even want to tell people because it's so embarrassingly stupid. You don't want to tell people. And that's what you need to do. You need to live a life free of regrets. You know how you live a life free of regrets? By not following greed, materialism, sneakiness, self-gratification. If you get away from that, self-gratification, greediness, materialism, your life will be worth something. Your life will get somewhere. And in the beginning, there will be some inverted commas struggle. There will be struggle. Why will there be struggle? Every scientist has to prove their theory. And I'm going to prove my theory. You know why? Because I'm 44. Well, next month I'm 44. What do I have to lose? I've ate it all. I did it all. I traveled it all. I've met so many people. I've worn so many clothes. I was beautiful once. I had people gawking at me. Now people gawk at me for another reason. And I did it all. I can have so many relationships if I want. I can walk down the street, walk into a club, and get almost anybody I want. Last time. You can ask David. He used to go clubbing with me once or twice. He forced me there. And I can get what I want, who I want. Any sex. I don't have a problem. But I know I didn't want that. And I'm glad I went through that. No, I'm not glad I went through that. I wasted a lot of time. I'm not glad. I'm not glad at all. It's a waste of time. My point is, what do I have to lose? How bad can I become? If you say, hey, Rinpoche, you can lose everything, you'll be living on the streets again. I already lived on the streets. I know how to survive on the streets. I have lived on the streets for years. I know how to beg. I know how to live very frugally. And if I get back on the streets again, I will need to lap band my stomach. I'll lose weight real fast. It's all right. When people say bad things about you, you know what? Just join the crowd. There's a big crowd out there always chanting, Tsem Rinpoche's a fake, he's tired, he's TC. Whatever, just join the crowd. Let me sponsor the banner for you, in fact. Whatever. And what's my point? My point is, what do I have to lose? When I look at myself, nothing. And I look at all the things that I was afraid of for the last 20, 30 years that I didn't do, I should have done, I didn't do, or whatever. And I look back now and I swear to you, not everything, some of us, what was I scared of? What's the big deal? Because I'm not scared of it now. So what am I telling you guys? Realize that now. Some of you might say, oh, that's pretty easy for you to say. No, it's not easy for me to say. Because none of it was easy. Being afraid of yourself, being afraid of failure, being afraid of people is very scary. It's a very horrible way to live, to be afraid of yourself. To be afraid of failure. Because stupid people always think, if I fail, I fail. But smart people say, if I fail, it's one more step to success. So smart people who make it fail so many more times because they know it's another step to success. Stupid people are afraid of failure and they never do it. Or once they fail, they stop. That's stupid people. That's why stupid people never make it. Because they failed. TC. Every person who's made it failed so many more times, or so much more humiliated, or so put down, but they made it.